I'm Eric Chummy, and this is Politely Pushy. Welcome to Politely Pushy. I'm your host, as always, Eric Chummy. But today I've got so many more people on the show than normally I would ever have here. It's because we're celebrating the Bospar 10-year anniversary. I'm not sure a lot of people thought Bospar was going to make it to 10 years, but here we are. Proof we have humans. These are not AI bots. These are real people that prove that we did make it all the way to the 10-year birthday party. So Bospar, of course, the Spar is Curtis Spar. He's here below. Thank you for being the great leader that got us here. And we're joined by three of our favorite friends, past clients, current clients, repeat clients, people that have been on this side, on both sides of the game here for many years, from the very beginning up until today. So we've got Priti Khare, we've got Anuj Nayar, we've got Caitlin Cassady. I'll let you introduce yourselves very, very, very briefly, because we don't want to keep people here forever. Certainly we'll keep this as short as possible for our very busy users. But thank you all for joining, and happy birthday, Curtis. You've made it this long in the entrepreneurship game.
We're 10. Oh my God, we're so mature.
And you got your swag. I see Curtis has got his swag. Anuj has got some swag. I'm trying to look neutral with my nice suit over here. I don't know if Caitlin's swag made it there in the camera shot.
No, the swag actually was stolen this morning by my son as he got ready for school, because I got a hat that he was wearing the hat to school. And so the swag is being presented to the second graders of Burlingame, California today. So
that's pretty good, though. That's pretty good. So your kid saw a Bospar hat and thought, I need to wear it. I need to wear it now, and I need to wear it to school right now.
Yep, pretty much. He liked the face.
Oh, is it that little orange head?
Yes, exactly. It's like Anuj's sweatshirt. It was that on the hat. I really liked it. And it turns out he did too. So
where do we begin? How many
brand? I mean, maybe we could quit this PR business, and next 10 years we could just go into fashion.
There we go.
I think I liked the head. I think I liked because what is that? Zoom in, Anuj. Like how close can you get to the camera? That looks like
that's Pushy. That's our little AI assistant.
Oh, it's the Pushy little bot. Yeah, because I was going to say it looks like a cryptocurrency emoji or something like that. But when I first heard Curtis telling me late 2014, hey, I'm starting my own thing. We're not going to have an office. And, this whole new agency remote, I didn't understand. I said, well, where are you going to get your mail? Where are people going to go and meet? How are you supposed to talk to people if there's no office? So I didn't understand how it was going to work. And so obviously I knew Curtis from before day one. And yet here we are. Raise your hand. How many of you, when you first heard, hey, Curtis is going to do his own thing, did you think, great idea, crazy idea?
Great idea.
Great idea. Okay.
Great idea.
But also crazy idea. Come on, there's enough agencies out there. I mean, we were all like, really? I was like, well, good for
you. The industry needs one more agency, and it needs it from me, Curtis. We need one more, and I'm going to be the guy that does it.
That's exactly what I thought. And I thought at most it would be like a 5-person shop. I thought it would be like, okay, it's a nice little bespoke media relations kind of media house. And well, I was clearly proven wrong. What's the numbers now?
Oh, we're about 60 some odd people. And, right now, as the economy, continues to grow, we're looking to bring on a few more people before even the end of the year.
Wow. And I feel bad, Coach, you're not doing this from your normal office with that array of awards and other things that stagger everybody as soon as you get on in your normal call. So it's unfortunate we don't have that there, but it's been an incredible run. I mean, 10 years. I can't believe it's been already been 10 years.
I was 40 back then. Now I'm 50.
Oh dear. TMI. Let me tell you why I thought it was a great idea. Because an agency is nothing more than the collection of people making the agency. And Curtis and the people he was founding the agency were so stellar. And having worked with agencies, big, small, and in between, I had never worked with such an amazing group of pure PR professionals that I was in no doubt that he was going to make it and make it big. So true believer all the way.
And the thing is, out of everyone here, Priti was our very, very first client.
That's right. That's right. And a funny story, when I was moving my business to Curtis's brand new infant agency, the person who we were moving the business from told me I was crazy and I would live to regret it. And here we are 10 years later. I don't know how many times I've engaged Curtis and Bospar since then. So it's been quite a ride.
I love that. I met Bospar when y'all were already fully remote. I think came in around year 4 or 5, Curtis, when I first started engaging Bospar. I think I'm on my 3rd company now with Bospar, actually. But I was actually working remote, and I loved that the agency was remote because I wasn't in the office with my own team at that point currently. And I was like, great, I don't need anybody in an office. I'm not in one. What's the point? So it never made any, never sounded crazy to me. I always thought it was a brilliant model.
Priti, you said you've hired them a few times, or same with Caitlin. Ups and downs. I know we can talk about the ups, but I want to get into just some mistakes, or here was a problem, or Curtis really screwed something up. And then how did you resolve that? How did you find a way of saying, hey, usually you're great, but I don't know about this one.
So, here's the thing. I think Curtis is a brilliant PR strategist, and comes up with some amazing ideas. But at times, the ideas can, the scope of the company and where the company's at in the budget and Curtis's ideas don't quite meet. And I do remember this one time when there was a brand new CMO at this company that we were with, and Curtis came up with this grand idea we were talking about rebranding the company, and Curtis's ideas were brilliant, but the cost was exceedingly intimidating. And I had warned him to keep it realistic, but that's hard for Curtis to do when he gets into his ideas. So I just remember this meeting and looking at Curtis and just shaking my head because I could just see the CMO. I just get smaller and smaller in the chair going, are you kidding me? But, we got over the hump. The thing I love about Curtis is he's always open to feedback. I can tell him good, bad, or ugly straight up. And we had a very candid conversation after the meeting saying, I told you so, Curtis, what were you thinking? And we fixed it. I mean, he came back the very next week with a revised proposal that was much more in line with what we were thinking. So sometimes Curtis's enthusiasm needs to be matched.
Guilty.
But that creativity, I think, is unmatched. That idea to kind of here's something that's going to capture the cultural zeitgeist and really move things forward. I still remember one of my favorite programs I've done in my entire career was the PayPal Galactic. Was our idea to kind of talk about payments in space. So just around the time when Virgin Galactic and SpaceX and Blue Origins were launching, and getting Buzz Aldrin involved, getting the SETI Institute involved, getting NASA's Silicon Valley Space Institute involved. And I think the whole thing, including the agency costs and Buzz Aldrin's significant fee, was $100,000 for the most incredible campaign that we saw major uptick on the business for. So it definitely can work both ways. It's if you can hit the right creativity and get that moment, which I think is one of the things I've always loved about the team, is that being able to see outside of our little box, which we get out in-house, and saying, hey, this is something that's really going to hit outside of your world because it's hitting a pop culture moment. It's hitting kind of a cultural moment. I've always been singularly impressed about how the team brings that stuff together.
Agree. And I think it's been such a great part of I know for me, it's why I've continued to engage Bospar, is that it's Curtis, it's you and Tom, but it's everyone you hire too. Because everyone that I work with, I've now had 3 different, account teams at 3 different companies, and everyone I've been able to be this is my big idea. And you tell me what's going to be relevant about it. You push me to help make this more interesting from an external perspective, to your point. And it was just it's easy to get narrowed in my little internal vision box of just what the company's doing. And I've always appreciated that push and pull where Bospar has always really truly felt like a partner to me, not an agency.
It's funny you said that, because that was going to be my next question, is as you've been 3 times around, you're getting different account team members. You're your company that you're representing has got a different focus, different goals, different priorities. And it's not going to be just an agency founder, right? Like you said, it's 60 odd people right now. You've got to find this ethos, right? In terms of when I work with Bospar, it means something, and it means something consistent. Otherwise, like we said before, it's just a collection of people. Those people have to be working towards a common goal, a common theme. From your perspective, on the client perspective, how would you describe, hey, when I work with Bospar, I'm getting X, whether or not Curtis is in the room or Tom's in the room, when I'm getting a Bospar team, what does that mean to all of you?
Shall I go? I mean, I think they hit the tagline. It's politely pushy. They push us too, right? It's not just pushing the media and pushing the external characters. It's pushing the client to say, hey, this isn't going to work. Like what you're telling me is not newsworthy. It's not going to drive narrative. What else have you got? Can you do this? Can we do this? Can we do sitting there and pushing me? I love that because I find often, especially in-house, you get into groupthink, just like Caitlin was saying. You get into the groupthink. It's like, this is the way forward, and this is what it's going to do, and everybody's going to love it. And you're like, and then having somebody come in being like, this is so boring. I'm sorry. There's nothing interesting at all about what's going on. I mean, normally that's not fair. They're a lot politer than that, but the message is always like, this is really just, no, you guys are in your little bubble. It's not going to happen. And having somebody say, look, what else have you got? And then working with us and brainstorming with us and sitting there and saying, what about this? You mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Is this still an option? We can start working through that stuff. And then together we'll come up with something that may cut through the noise.
You know, for me, I think to second what Anuj said, it's when you're working in PR in-house, you're often battling with a whole bunch of people who really don't understand what PR is. Right? They equate PR with advertising. We'll just tell our story, just sell our product. We should do a press release because we added 2 new features. And so you really need a partner with you to lobby to the powers that be in house to say, no, we're not in the business of advertising. If you want to sell your 2 new features, put on an ad, right? What makes your story newsworthy? Why would a reporter care? And that's where Bospar really shines, because they bring to the conversation not stuff that's just relevant to you and your little product and your little industry, but what's happening in the media at large. How do we insert you into the New York Times, even though you may be, doing cashback shopping? And how do we elevate your story and make it interesting, whether it's pushing you to look at the data you may have that you would have never considered, right? So I think all those approaches make Bospar really valuable, and they do it in a manner that's as Anuj said, perfectly politely pushy, as they should, which I really value, because again, they're a partner and not a vendor. For a lot of PR people, you're the only one doing PR in-house. So I always view the Bospar team as an extension of my team and not an external vendor. And that's how they behave, no matter who's on your account team, which I love.
Completely agree with that. Like I've the three companies where I've engaged Bospar have all been like fairly like small to mid-sized startups where it's like not just a single person doing PR, but like tiny marketing teams, like very little internal resources. And I think for me, what's always been great too is like to have someone bring in a different level of creativity. I can come to any Bospar team I've worked with and be like, this is the business goal. You tell me how we're going to like make this sing. And being able to have that like extension of like, hey, this person who's not even on your account team spoke with this reporter. And by the way, we think this actually ties back to what you're ultimately trying to do. So let's get creative with it. Like, let's figure out, even with like your smaller budgets, how we can make this go. And for companies that admittedly the very first one I engaged Bospar with was like pretty boring, if I'm going to be honest with myself with that. It was budgeting software. There was nothing sexy about it. It was very impactful, but really boring. And the Bospar team, like that's where I fell in love with Bospar. Is like they came up with new ways on a regular basis to help me figure out how to make it more engaging and exciting for our external audiences.
I
mean, one of the things.
You go ahead, Anuj.
So one of the things that I've always appreciated, I think we've all in-house had the experience of the marketing team or the product team comes up to you and says, just get a press release out about this. That's what you guys do. And you're like, but why? They're like, because that's what you do. You're like, but why? They're like, to get media coverage. But why? To get media coverage. You're like, but what is the business goal that you're trying to achieve that you want to get the media coverage for? Right? And I have sat down with the team multiple times and said, we're going to be in this meeting. This is what's going to happen. And like, he is working together to be like, Let's get them refocused on what is the ultimate business result that communications as a function is going to try and help deliver. And then we'll move out of the conversation of this is a press release or this is a story in the New York Times into here's the full arsenal of tools we can bring to the fore. And it could be a whole bunch of different things. And I think one of the things I've really enjoyed is I think the communications as a function has changed so much in the last 10 years. And it's been great to work with an agency that's always on the cutting edge of like, this is some of the new stuff that's going on. And can we try and move this forward? Look at all the work they're doing with AI right now. I think it's really interesting. It's like, how do you take the latest technologies, married to the business results that you've got, and move things forward? 10 years ago, nobody had heard the term influencer, for example, right? And now everyone's sick of the term influencer, right? It's this whole ideas that have gone through a gamut that have hit the peaks and gone down. And Bospar's always been a partner for us, or for me at least, to be, hey, this is what's happening next. This is what's going to work. And this is what it is to tie these different vehicles to the business results you're trying to achieve.
Curtis, do you think you've had to hire different people in the last couple of years from, let's say, 10 years ago? Like you said, influencer wasn't a thing 10 years ago. AI is a thing now, right? The reduction in the newsrooms, but people are spending more time on screens. They're spending more time consuming, but it's in such a fragmented way. Do you feel like you have to hire a different kind of person for that? Or is the function and the ethos and driving the same business goals still the same thing as a decade ago?
That's an interesting question, because oftentimes what I'm looking for is someone who either fills a quality that we've never had before, or is exactly some shape of a journalist who I think fills an important gap. And so we have brought on people who do social media, because that's something that is increasingly more and more a thing that we need. We have also really doubled down on former journalists, just because that sort of understanding of these newsrooms is critical to getting our stories placed. We recently brought on Tomio Giron, who I used to pitch at Wall Street Journal, at Forbes, at Protocol, and having his understanding of the newsroom and what is the best time for a story to get greenlit at the Wall Street Journal versus Forbes is really interesting. It's very tactical and arcane, but it's just those nuances that are so helpful. And so I know that's kind of a waffly answer, Eric, because there's not like a type who does it. I think the person who most appeals to me, just on a kind of selfish, reflective level, is someone who follows up in an email and is indeed politely pushy. If someone does that, I'm a lot more excited about them, and I know I'm just going to get my inbox just exploded with emails. But that's the personality trait that matters most.
Where did you come up with the politely pushy phrase? Where did that come from?
I was working on this project for Anuj at PayPal, and we were trying to get the first outer space purchase made. And I was talking to this astronaut's wife, and I was trying to convince her to get her husband to do it. And I couldn't follow up with her every day, even though I had tremendous pressure to get this done. And so I had to think of unique ways each and every time to get in front of her, so I didn't seem like a huge galactic pest. And that's when I really crystallized on the politely pushy idea, because that's what you have to do with journalists. That's what you have to do with analysts. That's even what you have to do with clients and with your peers. And so it just seemed, cute enough and right enough, and basically got the zeitgeist. And if I could go and zoom out just a touch further, when I look at different agencies and how they describe themselves, it's like agency Mad Libs. If you were to take the agency names, remove them, and just put the descriptions of them, you would not be able to tell which one is different. And the whole idea about politely pushy is we're not going to be so insecure as to have all these different words describing ourselves. We're going to be secure enough where we're going to have something memorable and cute and thoughtful. And that's going to be not only our tagline and motto, but that's going to encapsulate our approach to getting attention for our clients as well.
Do you all agree? When you hear that as the clients, do you agree with what Curtis said?
Well,
One piece of information that he didn't mention is the reason he had to talk to the wife is because the astronaut was on the International Space Station.
huh.
She could talk to him like once a week, right? But he was still pushing the different ways to put it together. I think that's an important fact. It's like, why weren't you talking to the astronaut? Because he was up in space.
He was up in space. Wow. No, I absolutely agree with what Curtis said. And I would also add one trait I have seen in all Bospar teams that I've worked with, or two rather, is one, they're relentlessly curious. And I think in the PR business, that's extremely important to be, to be really curious and to be voracious readers. You actually have to be a voracious consumer of the news if you want to successfully be placing stuff in the news. It's one thing to be a journalist. Not every PR person has that background, but you have to, at the very least, be a voracious consumer of the news. And almost all the teams that I've worked with, every single person has been extremely curious about learning, understanding new things, and also bringing to the table, hey, I was just reading this article in Vogue magazine. And that's great because this is how it connects to what you are doing. And, tell me more. So I think those two qualities are something that I've found in spades in both our teams and fairly lacking in some of the other people that I've worked with.
And universally helpful. I got a third one there, Priti, which is just, even when I haven't had an actual paid relationship with the team at Bospar, I've had not just Curtis, but the whole team reach out to me, be like, hey, we saw this, and we thought you might be interested in this. Outside of even the core stuff, and often, it's been a news item or something, or another kind of idea that has completely blown me away. So it's not excuse me, it's not I agree with you completely. It's not just that, but it's also that innate helpfulness. Or if I've needed something like, hey, it's outside of my core work, but could you help me get this thing done? Always on it immediately, turning something around and deliver to an excellent extent. So it's a true partnership, I find.
Yeah, agreed. And I think too, what I love about that sometimes, I think Curtis, you mentioned, is like being politely pushy with the client. Like, I know that I want coverage or whatever it is that we've been like tackling together. And when I'm the holdup, like the team is never rude, but they're like, Caitlin, if this is what we're trying to do, like you're actually the blocker here, or your team's the blocker, or whatever the case may be. And they say it so lovingly that I'm like, yes, I know, I feel bad, but it's the right vibe where I'm like, that's what they're doing to reporters, to get us the coverage, to get us in front of the right people, to have the right conversations, to get people to come cover us at events or things like that. And so like, I actually love that perspective because I think there's so much out there in the world today. Like Eric, you just showed your phone, like there's 1,000 other things that people could be paying attention to at any given moment. You have to put yourself out there and be a bit pushy, I think, to like rise to the top and make sure people are talking to you.
Do we think we're going to be doing this 10 more years from now when Curtis is 60? Is Bospar going to get
You had to bring it to me being 60. I mean,
you're the one that started with the ages. No one else brought up ages.
I'm clear about that. I get that I appear youthful, and that's just because there's enough Botox to make that happen. But yes, I think we're going to be doing this when I'm 60 and when I'm 70 and when I'm 80. I'm in it because I really love this. I think that telling interesting stories is important. I remember when I was on the other side on the news assignment desk, and sometimes I was just thinking, is anything happening here that's compelling? And so having that sense of, I'm in Toledo, Ohio, it's a town where spiders go to die, I need to make some news happen. And now being on the other side where I actively can do that, I can't imagine anything more rewarding.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
It'll
everybody.
be us. I think it may be our AI avatars. We'll all be doing this. We'll all be sitting there doing something else. And that information will be received by somebody else's AI avatar, and we'll kind of make those happen. Before we go, I just wanted to say one thing. Before we jumped on the call, I had a little thought. It was like, what was happening 10 years ago? That was when the ice bucket challenge was the biggest viral moment. I just thought I just got to bring that stuff up. Kim and Kanye just got married. Right. It was kind of Frozen mania was the big stuff on that stuff. And, I just thought, think how long ago that feels like, but so much has changed, but so much of the core the core fundamentals of doing good PR remain the same.
It's a good reminder it's so quick that 10 years went by, like the ice bucket challenge I wouldn't have picked was that particular year, for example, right? Or I didn't realize it was Frozen or it was Kim and Kanye didn't last too long. So you outlasted them. You outlasted them, Curtis. Nice job.
That's the bar.
That's the bar. That's the bar. Well, thank you, everybody. Here's to another 10 years.
Cheers to Bospar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to my guest, and thanks for listening. Subscribe to get the latest episodes each week, and we'll see you next time.